Hey, good evening. If everyone can go ahead and take a seat, we're going to get started. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Andreen Castro, and on behalf of the UCEA Graduate Student Council, I'd like to welcome all of you to the Graduate Student Council Keynote Address featuring our very own Dr. Michelle Young. And before we get started with this evening's events, I just want to take a moment to recognize and say thank you to the President-elect, Dr. Tara Van Zandt Chambers. Give her a hand. She has been very instrumental and very intentional and committed to including graduate students by having this graduate student-sponsored keynote. And I'd also like to personally thank her for bringing along and including graduate voices on the planning committee this year. So thank you very much for supporting the work that Dr. Young has already paved the way for. And so without further ado, because we are all looking forward to the highlight of this evening, I'd like to welcome to the stage Maddie Mavrogordato.
There's a reason they call me Dr. Maddie at Michigan State. So Michelle asked the five of us to provide a collective introduction for her this evening. And given the theme for Michelle's talk today, we thought it might be nice to share how Michelle helped each of us see ourselves as an integral part of UCEA. In other words, how she helped each of us understand that we are UCEA, even while we were still graduate students. Michelle has an uncanny knack for helping people find their place within this complex organization by recognizing people's strengths and gently, or not so gently, nudging them in a direction where she knows they will make a meaningful contribution. A number of years ago, Michelle invited me to become a member of the inaugural Graduate Student Council. She charged the GSC with providing a voice for graduate students, educating graduate students about UCEA and its initiatives, developing student-led seminars, forums, and workshops at the UCEA convention, and contributing to the UCEA graduate student blog, UCEA Review, and the UCEA webpage. She trusted us to get the work done, and once we realized the power that she had given us to shape the trajectory of UCEA, particularly for the future of UCEA as graduate students, all of us were terrified. And one thing was for sure, none of us were going to let her down. Michelle chose to invest in the future of UCEA as an organization by deliberately investing in individuals and growing leaders. Thanks, Michelle, for helping each of us and so many others find a place in this organization and help each of us understand that we are UCEA. I'd like to turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Dr. Brad Davis.
Esteemed is not a word I've ever heard said about me, so thank you for that. January 25th, 2011. We are thinking about developing a graduate student council for UCEA that will provide input to me and UCEA's governing board. This will be a small group of students from a variety of UCEA institutions. I need from you good thinking on how these folks should be selected, what UCEA should expect from their involvement, what leadership they might provide to the graduate student community, etc. Please send me your best thinking by February 9th, and plan to talk with me about this by the 11th. This was the actual email sent from from Michelle to Richard and myself when we were graduate assistants at UCA Home Office when it was still at UT Austin. And I think that email actually speaks incredibly powerfully to how Michelle doesn't just trust people to do things, she empowers people to do things. And for that, we thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Aaron Anderson, my esteemed colleague.
So on the day the moving trucks pulled up into the loading dock at UVA, I was standing beside Michelle and Pam Tucker, having just begun my first day at UCEA. When I saw the truck open and the history of the organization being unloaded in many, many, many large filing cabinets, I began to understand the legacy and the importance of the organization Michelle had invited me to be a part of. Within weeks, I was asked to reach out to Brad and Richard in a very similar email to continue to develop their idea for the Graduate Student Council. With the addition of 3 other members, the work began and it hasn't stopped. The council and the summit have grown in amazing ways. From the day that I first met Michelle, the opportunities she provided me as a graduate student began a journey that changed my life. The influence of Michelle as a scholar, a mentor, and a friend has been tremendous. Her professionalism, energy, thoughtfulness, passion for the field, and commitment to equity have transformed my life, have changed the direction of UCEA, and will continue to impact who we are as UCEA.
Good evening. I'll be honest, there was only one anecdote that kept coming to mind that happened around the GSC, and it concerned one of the GAs being sent home for wearing jeans. But we're going to keep that story, we're going to leave that story there to not embarrass anybody who might be on the stage. Aside from that single anecdote that I still can't get out of my head, the one thing that kept coming to mind when I was thinking about what I would say tonight was that I greatly appreciated as a graduate student, greatly appreciate as a colleague, and greatly respect this trait, this quality in Michelle Young, who is my mentor. It didn't matter whether it was a conversation about a course, about an idea, about a project, and then now national work. The presence that you have, and you are present, so not just the presence, but being present, and the calm that you demonstrate has been so incredibly helpful to all the work that we do. The second thing is the University of Texas takes pride in saying that what starts there changes the world. Michelle Young started there. You've changed UCEA, and you've created opportunities and thus changed the lives for many of us.
Last but certainly not least, it's my pleasure. When I enrolled in my doctoral program at UVA, I had no real idea what UCEA was, and I had no understanding of who Michelle Young was. In my first meeting with her in August of 2015, she said, "Brian, you're going to be the graduate assistant working with the Graduate Student Council." I didn't really know what the Graduate Student Council was, but like many graduate students meeting their supervisors for the first time, I said, "Absolutely, that sounds great." Little did I know, though, how life-altering Michelle's charge to me would be. Over the past 3 years, I've come to know and understand firsthand how deep Michelle and UCEA's commitment is to preparing the next generation of scholars. The Graduate Student Council has received her unending support with creating new initiatives for supporting graduate students, recruiting members of the UCEA family to serve as mentors, and providing more space for us to host an ever-expanding Graduate Student Summit, a signature initiative that, from my perspective, is like few events of its kind. In fact, this year's summit is the largest in UCEA's history, with 215 registrants. And this year's convention, which just eclipsed 1,000 attendees, counts 418 graduate students, another UCEA record. And while she'll say it's a team effort, and it certainly has been, much of this success is because of Michelle and her vision. I'm not sure if many of you know this, but Michelle's a big fan of Lord of the Rings. And there's a quote from Gandalf that's particularly apropos for this occasion. Gandalf said to Frodo, "All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." Michelle made a decision to use the time given to her to serve UCEA for the past 18 years. If Michelle has helped you find your place in UCEA, I invite you to stand and remain standing. Michelle, look around. This is your legacy. We are UCEA because you made that decision in September of 2000 to take the reins of this organization. Many of us are here because of you, but all of us tonight are here for you. Folks, it's my pleasure to introduce the inaugural keynote speaker, Dr. Michelle D. Young.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening. That was really wonderful. I'd like to begin by recognizing the individuals who invited me to come and talk with you this evening, the members of the Graduate Student Council, and you met two of them just now, Andreen Castro and Brian Van Groningen. But the other members of the current GSC also include Kevin Clay, Nakia Gray, Chandler Patton Miranda, Meredith Ronsky, Shannon Holder, and Matt Steer. If you're here, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank the members of the Convention Planning Committee who also were very gracious and provided the GSC with this opportunity to have this inaugural graduate student sponsored speaker. It's wonderful to have this invitation. So the GSC, Graduate Student Council for short, as you can probably tell, has some very personal significance for me. As I've gotten to know these sharp and committed junior scholars and witnessing their dedication to creating meaningful learning spaces and opportunities for their colleagues, I've watched their careers develop, and I've taken extreme delight in their successes. I specifically invited this little group that came up here for a very particular reason, because of the role that they played at a very specific time to think about, to really help UCEA think about how to bring the voice of graduate students to really uplift the concerns, the talents, the contributions the doctoral students were already making in the UCEA community, to make that more visible. So as Brad and Richard were sharing, they became my fearless companions in the beginning to make the case to have graduate student voice in UCEA governance. So in my office in the Sanchez building, after they received my email and accepted the invitation, we started mapping a way forward, and that map, very importantly, including the two of them meeting with the executive committee without me to make the case for themselves, to make the case to the executive committee for the creation of GSC as an entity. It was really important to me that this happened, but it was also important to me that they build an organization based on their vision, on their needs, and on their ambitions. Now, soon after establishing this need, we went through a move from Texas to Virginia, and that's when Madeline and Aaron joined the group. And Aaron was very busy unpacking a lot of boxes for a very long time, and I appreciated that very much. But these two joined Richard and Brad and really built something significant for the graduate students. They didn't shy away from thinking or dreaming big. The other members of that first group included Sadat Gumas, Amanda Wirtz, Helen Wang, Rod Whiteman, Jasmine Ulmer, and James Vines. And I think it's really significant to point out that three of these folks are members of the UCEA plenum. That's Helen, Rod, and Aaron. Just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Since that time, the GSC has had the benefit of really strong leadership. 33 different doctoral students from many, many different UCEA institutions, including UVA's own Brian Van Groningen. What a name, by the way. I love his name, who made it his mission to ensure that the GSC broke 200 this year. And as he told you, he met that goal. Each one of the members of the GSC has left a mark, whether it was creating their social media presence or developing the UCA Ambassadors program. Every single one of them has made it a little bit better, a little bit more fun, and a little bit more impactful. And if we had had time, I would have had every single one of those 33 up here talking with you about their experience. The GSC is a perfect example of how to move an idea into reality by providing resources and autonomy to a diverse group of really bright and committed people. The GSC is so much more than I ever imagined, and I thank each of you again for your leadership, your service, and for doing me the honor of the introduction tonight. In addition to the personal significance the GSC has to me, it also has significance for the future of this field, because you graduate students and junior scholars have been touched by, encouraged by many UCEA initiatives that focus on graduate students, whether it's the Jackson Scholars or the Graduate Student Summit or the Clark Seminar or the initiatives like the UCA Ambassadors program. All of these things were developed thinking about some of the findings and some of the ideas that came out of the GSC and other graduate students who have contributed to UCA over the years. The fact that we have over 400 graduate students here this year is amazing. So addressing this body is truly an honor. As I faced the difficult task of determining what I was going to talk with you about tonight, I had 18 years of experience to dig through. How UCEA has changed over the years, significant accomplishments, my scholarship. I must admit that with my decision to transition out of UCEA, my mind has often bending towards how I've been spending my time, who I spent it with, what we accomplished, what I didn't get done. But in the end, I decided to share with you some of the key lessons that I've learned with and from you in my service to UCEA. Lessons which I hope will have meaning to you regardless of your career stage, but particularly for those of you who are towards the beginning. Oops. And these are: build a community wherever you go. Engage with people around their ideas and goals. Care deeply about people. And stay true to your core principles. When I look out at this room, I see many, many people that I care about, who I have learned from over the years, and who I'm excited to get to know better. UCEA is a very special community of scholars within the UCEA. There are subcommittees, subcultures and communities. Some of these subcommunities were organically developed, and some of them were intentionally designed. Some intentionally designed to bring together like-minded individuals. Some were intentionally designed with a specific set of research questions. And some were intentionally designed to create a specific community of scholars. Now, I've worked and learned within a lot of different organizations since joining UCEA, and some of them have had really incredibly strong communities. The UT Austin is a really good example of this. As a graduate student, my cohort of graduate students colleagues were amazing. Some of them were from Ed Psych, Ed Policy, Leadership, Social Work, Adult Learning, Higher Education, Foundations. That community was intentionally developed by the faculty at that time, by the experiences that they were creating for us. Jay Scribner, Pedro Reyes, Lonnie Wagstaff, Jim Shurik, Martha Avondo, Jim Yates. It was reinforced by program alumni and by students, including my good friends, Linda Skurla, Gerardo Lopez, Julie Lively, Lance Fusarelli, Ana Pedrosa, Ed Fuller, Barb Paisley, Celeste Alexander, Jim Kashurik, and it was a powerful culture. Faculty involved us immediately in significant research projects. They invited us to collaborate on scholarship. They invited us to co-teach their courses. They signed us up to volunteer at various practitioner events. So now you might wonder why you get to do this too. They held Friday afternoon office hours at the local beer garden. Students also created groups. We celebrated together. We celebrated accomplishments. We caravanned to national conferences. It was a really wonderful time. And many of the folks who I went to school with then went on to try and build similar cultures and communities within their own institutions, as did I. This is so important. It's important for your mental health. It's important for your program health. It's important for your career. You need colleagues who understand and support your work. You need colleagues with whom you can learn, build things, share a meal, commiserate, laugh, or turn over ideas, advice, and support. If you don't have a community like that, do whatever you can to create one. Working in a place without a strong community can be isolating and deflating. If you end up in a place like that, think about what you can do to build a community yourself, for yourself and your colleagues. Start a writing group. Invite a colleague for coffee. Show interest in people. Talk about your organization as if it's already a community. Foster norms of engagement and curiosity and care. And don't be satisfied with superficial relationships. Getting together with your colleagues and students every once in a while maybe painful, can actually be really beneficial to you personally and to your professional community. Through such interactions, people become more than their research. They become more than their teaching, and they become much more than their behavior at faculty meetings. And as you build your community, or your communities, make sure it is diverse. Make sure that everyone in your community is not just like you. The more diverse, the better. You will gain so much. If you go to a place where community already exists, I encourage you to invest in it and make it stronger. Don't take it for granted. That goes for UCEA as well. If UCEA is an important professional community to you, invest in it. Get involved. Make a difference. Building community is important work, and it's something we all have a responsibility to do, whether it's in your home institution, your professional association like UCEA, or your district partnership. Build a community wherever you go and be intentional about it. Now, without question, higher education can be an isolating place. The dissertation, achieving tenure, these activities are generally framed as if they are solo rides, but they really aren't. Think about it. Lots of people contribute to our careers, both directly and indirectly. We aren't successful merely because of what we do. Progressing through one's profession isn't, and it shouldn't be a solo activity. Engaging mentors, colleagues, and students around your ideas and their ideas generally helps lead to better thinking and better results. Likewise, important challenges rarely have easily identified solutions, and when progress is made, it's rarely the result of a single individual. There are many examples that I could share here from my work with UCEA. In fact, I can't think of a single significant accomplishment over the last 18 years that I have spent with UCEA that was mine and mine alone. And I mean that. The UCA Program Design Network, nope. Jackson Scholars, Nope. Handbook of Research on Leadership Development? Nope. Developing Leaders to Support Diverse Learners curriculum modules? Mm-mm. Journal of Research on Leadership Education? No. Graduate Student Council? Absolutely not. The National Commission for the Advancement of Leadership Preparation? No. We did these things. Not me, we did these things. When I started working for UCEA, we took on the challenge of building a diverse and inclusive UCEA community. Why we took on this challenge was not the result of a single individual. It was the result of many and collective efforts to put the issue in front of the UCA leadership and the commitment of UCA leaders to make it a priority. It was through engaging around these ideas with those first EC members, Malu Gonzalez, Jay Scribner, Barbara Jackson, Nan Restine, Bob Slater, Diana Pounder, Mary Driscoll, Fran Cochin, Gail Furman, Gary Crow, Jim Shurick, Margaret Grogan, Michael Dantley, Colin Murtada, and Fang English, and all of those that followed, that the organization you experience today emerged. How many past president and past EC members are here tonight? Show of hands. Let's give them a round of applause. Each of these people have dedicated at least 6 of their professional years to nurturing and leading this organization. And some of them have referred to my meetings as boot camps. As we work to develop a more diverse and inclusive organization, many ideas were put on the table, discussed, developed, vetted, revised, voted on. We worked to find ways to make diversity and inclusion a part of UCEA governance, UCEA values, and UCEA's future. We revised UCEA policy. We ensured our convention themes and content reflected diversity, equity, and social justice. And we established the Jackson Scholars Network in honor of Barbara L. Jackson. In fact, her namesake, the Jackson Scholars Network, is a really good example of the point I'm trying to make here. Through our work together, we arrived at the conclusion that in order for UCEA to become a more diverse organization, our member institutions needed to become more diverse. Martha McCarthy and Don Hackman's review of the professoriate confirmed our belief that the Ed Leadership Professorate was not diverse, UCEA institutions included. We understood that changing the UCEA membership criteria was a necessary but not sufficient step. We needed a more comprehensive plan if we were going to be changing a profession. We examined our programs, our practices, and we learned that a large portion of graduate students of color were going back to practice after graduation. We had to find ways to make the professorate more compelling and realistic opportunity for them. So we talked to students, alums, faculty, deans. We explored effective mentoring practices and strategies, and we explored what other professions were doing. And when Fran Cochin, who was very involved in AACTE at the time, asked, why couldn't we do something like the Holmes program? Click, light bulb. The Holmes program, for those of you who don't know about it, is focused on supporting graduate students more broadly, and it's hosted by AACTE. Serendipity? Maybe. It was definitely the spark that we needed after a very long burn of problem definition, ideation, and design. We recognized the potential and the possibility in the idea. Others chimed in to offer their ideas, their support, and their time to make it a reality. And since that day, the program has continued to grow and evolve as UCA Associate Directors Linda Tillman, Cristobal Rodriguez, Gerardo Lopez, Lisa Bass, and Holly Mackey have brought their own ideas and commitments. As our pool of mentors has grown and evolved, as we have learned more about the needs and wishes of program participants, and as graduate student leaders like Carmen Foster, Angel Nash, and Daniel Moraguez helped to create memorable moments like our Motown flash mob in Detroit. And the Jackson Scholars Network, just like all of UCEA's efforts to become more inclusive, must continue to evolve. Becoming a diverse and inclusive organization isn't something that you just do and then move on. It must be nurtured. Furthermore, diversity isn't an exotic artifact that you just stand back and admire. It's something you learn from and leverage to make organizations stronger and better and more inclusive and equitable. I'm very hopeful because I have seen how our work in this area has progressed, and I have seen how much it means to so many people. None of these achievements would have been possible in absence of an engaged and committed professional community. And so many more things will be possible for that very same reason. Caring about people and their ideas. So why is it that people choose to become engaged in a professional community? Why is it that people get excited about and dedicate their precious time and resources and energy to programs, their college, and organizations like UCEA? While there are a lot of different idiosyncratic reasons, for some it comes down to three things. Can I make a significant contribution? Do I enjoy it? Am I valued? As executive director, I've worked with my team and colleagues to think about how we can address these key questions by providing opportunities for faculty and students to make contributions, whether it's to journals, to the convention, to research projects, to improvement efforts, or to graduate student initiatives. We work to create experiences that were engaging and fun. For example, the UCEA study visits, our new convention session formats, the Jackson Scholars Moment of Mind Funness, which in case you haven't signed up is tomorrow morning. And we intentionally worked to let people know that they are valued through our words, through our awards, and through our interactions. Our field, organizations like UCEA, your schools and colleges of education, at the core are about people. So when we think about our goals and what we want our organizations to achieve, we must consider our most valuable resources, people, their feelings, their experiences, their contributions, and their goals. Part of valuing people is being accessible, listening to people, hearing them, learning from them. This is sometimes hard to do when you're very busy, overscheduled, running from one meeting to another. But think about the people who have supported you and what they did. What did that look like? It may have involved them inviting you to work on a project, or agreeing to write a letter of recommendation for a job, or it may have been a simple, appreciative comment about your work. Support comes in many shapes and sizes, and cumulatively, it can have a significant impact on you, just as you can have a significant impact on others if you pay it forward. Think about the people who have made you feel valued, who encouraged you to do more, to be more. I'll wager that they were kind, and that they made time to get to know you so that they would know how best to support you. I have been shown so much kindness and generosity over the course of my career, and I have committed myself to paying that kindness and generosity forward again and again. Last week, I read a manuscript which made a compelling case, that leadership is less about the tasks that we complete and more about interactions with others. That really resonated with me. If leadership is in the interactions, then every day we have countless opportunities to impact the people around us in both positive and negative ways. But the benefits of caring and kindness are significant, not just for the recipient, but for you. I recently read that being kind and supportive of others can have a powerful and positive impact on your immune system. And when you can, extend your caring beyond kindness. Invest in people. Keep them in mind. Connect them with opportunities. Share your ideas with them. You may have the opportunity to see those ideas flourish, like the GSC. For me, this has been one of the most gratifying things about serving as UCEA Executive Director. The opportunity to support the development of people and ideas, to connect them with others, to discover that adjacent possible idea or innovation, and to extend the reach of our efforts. No single person has all of the best ideas, not even Joe Murphy. And they don't just suddenly appear out of thin air. When I look at all of you, I see wealth. I see an amazing resource for the field of education. And what I have tried to do in UCEA with my many traveling companions over the years is to create spaces and opportunities to support you that enable you to share your ideas and engage with others with similar as well as divergent ideas and interests, so that great ideas have an opportunity to incubate and flourish. And importantly, you don't have to be in a position of power and authority or influence to support other people. And supporting your colleagues is not limited to grand gestures. Leadership, remember, is in the interactions. When I get busy, I often default, my graduate students can attest to this, to the goal in front of me, and then the next one, and then the next one. But just like it's important to remember that everything we do is about people, it's also to remember why you chose to work in the field of education in the first place, and how that calling or mission or reason has evolved over the course of your career. Why are you here? Why are you really here? What are you trying to do, and are you doing it? One of the things I found compelling about UCEA when I was a graduate student was the passion that people brought to their work. I found in UCEA a community of scholars who, like me, were unabashedly committed to making education a better and more responsive experiences for all of the students and adults who worked and learned in schools. But I also found things that troubled me, things that moved me to critique, things that I wanted to see change. And critique is important. It's essential. Very few important changes in this world have ever occurred without protest and critique. When UCA hired me, I moved from critical outsider to critical insider. There is a big difference when you make that transition. As a critic, I didn't have to have answers to all the questions that I was asking. I didn't have to have solutions to all the problems that I was identifying. But as an insider, my work became about addressing the issues that I and others had raised and identified as troubling. To listen to critique, to really listen, to examine issues in depth, to explore problem contexts, and to seek a path forward. As I engaged in this work over the years, it became more clear to me that the majority of scholars affiliated with UCEA, whether they came from a place of critique or otherwise, were working towards very similar goals. some through advocacy, some through critique, some through research, and some through development. Some are working from the inside, and some are coming to this commitment externally. This diversity of thought and action is really what makes UCEA as an organization robust, creative, and relevant. So please, if something in this profession distresses you, work to change it. If something is broken, draw attention to it, sound the alarm, and have something to bring to the table. Bring your analysis, bring your ideas, and bring your commitment. But be willing to do something about it, and be willing to build bridges. There are people here within the UCEA community who can be your allies, and sometimes those scholars aren't who you would expect. I've been surprised again and again over the years by my UCEA colleagues, by their interests, passions, projects, commitments, and their courage. I now follow the advice of Maya Angelou and let people show me who they are rather than assuming that I know. And I've been rewarded for taking that advice by increasing the size, the reach, and the diversity of my community. And we all need allies. If we are ever to create an education system that supports equity, that is inclusive, rigorous, and well supported, then we need to be building bridges, not walls. We need to be looking for allies with interests and skills that differ from our own, and we need to explore what we have in common. And we need to reject the language of exclusion. And there's no better time to get started than now. Goals take time to achieve, and we risk reaching a moment when whatever advantage or ability we had to make positive change will have dissipated. This is our profession. We have a responsibility to it, to direct it, to make it stronger. It is up to each of us to stand up for what we believe is right, for our core principles. And I'm hopeful because I see in your work, in your actions, that we are ready, even impatient, to lead the way to a more equitable future. In a moment, you're going to start seeing people move through the room with glasses, so don't be alarmed. Y'all can go ahead. UCEA is a special community, and working as the UCEA Executive Director has been a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It has changed me forever. It has opened doors to opportunities I never imagined and has challenged me to lead. I have so many people to thank for this wonderful adventure and for working with me to achieve so much. And there's no way that I can mention all of you. I started writing a list. And it just started flowing off of the page. But know that you're on this list because every single one of you has touched my heart and touched my life. These wonderful people and the many, many others who I may have failed to identify have made the world of difference for me in this organization. And it's my sincerest wish that you too will be granted the kindness, the generosity, and the support that I have received. As I near the end of my remarks this evening, I hope the meaning of my title is clear. Whoops, it's gone. Okay. We are UCEA. We are this community. It wouldn't exist without you. If we don't like something, we should change it. If we want UCEA to do more, then we need to help it do more. If we want it to do something differently, we need to help it do something differently. If we love it, we should invest in it. We make it what it is, and it's our mutual responsibility to nurture and shape it, to serve a greater purpose than any individual person. So I'm going to do a toast to you once we all have glasses. This may take a moment. If you're not over 21, Trevor, I have my eye on you. It's honor code. Does anybody know any UCA songs? We need to create one. All right, how are we doing? We're about halfway done. I guess we could start the lip sync thing for tomorrow, right? Yeah. Okay, raise your hand if you still need one. All right. So a toast to you, to UCEA, and to our future together. May you have communities that make you strong, colleagues that make you smart, challenges to keep you curious, and core values to drive your work, and generosity that abounds. Leadership is a gift. It's given to you by those who follow. And I thank you very much for this wonderful gift you've given me. I'll see you out there.
Michelle, we want to thank you for your insightful and inspirational words. That was very meaningful, and I'm sure we are all touched by your words tonight. One more hand, please. And because we are full of surprises, we have one more surprise for you from Dr. Linda Tillman.
What a wonderful way to kick off the first graduate student keynote address. I've known Michelle since we were both graduate students. We both attended our first UCE together in Philadelphia, so we have come a long way. It is significant that she would give her closing remarks at the Graduate Student Council keynote address. Over 400 plus graduate students attending UCA. Awesome. Awesome. The evolution and implementation of grad student initiatives is due to the hard work of our executive director, Dr. Michelle Young. Michelle, as you leave your duties as executive director, we want to thank you so much for making sure that UCEA is committed to sustaining the work of the Barbara Jackson Scholars, the Grad Student Council, and all of the other initiatives that support, nourish, and nurture and encourage our UCA graduate students. Without you, we know that we could not have done this. And as faculty members, we have enjoyed working with you in these endeavors to make UCA a very inclusive community. Thank you, Michelle. You're one of those special people who always tries to give, who makes this world a better place just by the way you live. You try to care for others, you do the best you can, and even better, if anyone is in need of help, you're there to lend a helping hand. You've never asked for anything or want something in return. You're happy helping others, and you truly are concerned. Michelle, we can't thank you enough. There's no sufficient words to say to someone who always gives and hardly ever takes. Michelle, we love you, we will miss you, and we wish you well in your future endeavors. Salute Michelle one more time.
I know you will all clap all night. But on behalf, again, of the Graduate Student Council, we want to thank you all for showing up. We know that you all love and appreciate Michelle, and we are very appreciative of your support tonight. So thank you very much for attending Michelle's keynote address. Thank you very much.